Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Mushroomhead called The Devil, out August 9th on Napalm Records. The album has 13 tracks, 60 minutes in length, and this is the band's 9th full-length studio album. They are an American metal band. From a design standpoint, the album is somewhat what I was expecting. The somewhat meaning that I was expecting the album to be very dynamic, to be a roller coaster ride, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of ebbs and flows, an album that offers fluidity, that is very diverse, that's very eclectic in terms of the influences, the sound, the vocal approach, and the record is all of that. Now, the aspect that I wasn't expecting was for the album to be that diverse, that dynamic, that much of a roller coaster ride, and still somewhat feel balanced, or at the very least still find a way of feeling like a cohesive experience, like these songs belong with one another under this one single umbrella in order to create this overall journey that obviously has peaks and valleys, that has different ebbs and flows, but still the same journey nevertheless, regardless of where you are within this record. So finding a way of making these 13 songs coexist with one another, with all the differences that they have, I think it's key for this album to be more than just 13 great songs. It is a great record that starts off from this design that enhances the great qualities that the album puts forward. And those great qualities can be found first and foremost in the sound. I mean, this is a well-produced, a well-recorded record that has this really big experience. At times it feels like a very cinematic sounding record. Not to say that every song has that essence or that every song has those characteristics, but it's an album that overall really emphasizes a much bigger footprint, a much larger bandwidth for the way the songs are put together, for the way the songs impact the listener, and then the sound that makes that impact feel tremendous. Like I said, some songs have a little bit more of a cinematic role or of a cinematic impact, and that obviously makes the songs and makes the record feel bigger. But having a drum sound that has substance, that has an impact, that really fills in the back end of the sound, is also halfway towards getting to that goal of making a much bigger sounding record. I also enjoy the guitar sound on this album, a lot of the eclectic nature, a lot of the industrial and even heavier and groovier side of the album is really defined by the guitar sound, and how great it is at creating movement, at creating different textures, different atmospheres, and really helping to define some of these songs and allowing the listener to better understand what's behind the track, what's influencing the song, where is the band trying to go with this track. So the guitars, while not necessarily being the focal point or the spinal cord of this record, because on an album that it's this diverse, that has this much diversity in terms of the influences of the sound, it's hard to pinpoint one single element as the main characteristic. It's more on this album, to me, the impact that all of the different elements have, from keyboards to synths, guitars, bass, drums. Everything is coming together to create, like I said, that overall arching feel that this is a more cinematic sounding album. I think that becomes more of the spinal cord of the record than one single element. But the single elements and the quality within them is what allows the record to have that sort of essence. Also, this is the first record back for Gravy. He plays on a couple of songs. I mean, he's been away from the band for 12 years. It's nice to have him back on a couple of tracks. He brings a different flavor, and I think this could be a door that opens towards the future. Having him more involved in future records, I think would be great for the band and definitely great for the fan base as well. So you see the impact that he has on the songs that he has worked on. It definitely has a little bit of his DNA, a little bit of his fingerprint on it for sure. And when it comes down to that cinematic essence, if you're looking for one song that really defines it, A Final Repreieve, that track defines that cinematic overall arching atmosphere and essence that the album has. So great sounding record with a lot of movement, a lot of ebbs and flows. The keys on this record are outstanding. So it's an album that has so much quality, so much texture, so much warmth, and at the same time aggression and grooviness, and the way the sound comes together that allows the record, like I said earlier, to be dynamic, to be eclectic, but still find a way of of connecting some of the dots, even though you may have to walk long distances in order to connect them. Now, vocally, a powerful album as well. I don't think you can create an album with this sort of sound, with this sort of experience, without the vocals behind it kind of matching it. If you're going to create songs that have a large footprint, that are very wide at their base, the vocals have to fill in that same space. They have to have intensity. They have to match the aggression of the music. They have to match the melancholy of the songs. They have to match the melody of the songs. They really have to come together and become, if this was football or soccer, they would become the 12th man. And I think that's the role that they play on this record, being another added instrument, in this case 2 instruments, because you have Steve and Jackie with their own individual styles or their own individual approaches. But I honestly felt like we got an incredible performance for both of them, and songs where you could see the cooperation between the two. It's an album that's very even in terms of what both offer to the songs and to the record itself, and I think we're getting the most out of this album. Really squeezes the most out of the two of them in order for you to feel that the record has this extra layer to it, and that layer is the vocal dynamics, the vocal melodies, and the overall performance that adds that cherry on top of this phenomenal cake. Coming off of A Wonderful Life, which was a great record in my opinion, I really enjoyed that album. This record to me has a different element to it. It's a continuation of that effort, and everything that we saw that was great about that record kind of was transported over to this album. But where I think this album surpasses A Wonderful Life is the way it comes together as a whole. Great individual songs with great dynamics internally, but the way that they match these differences and turn some of those differences into commonalities in order to better connect the dots really makes this an interesting and engaging and entertaining experience to go from first all the way to the last song. 13 tracks, 60 minutes, great listening experience. Another great record by Mushroomhead. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I picked 3 very different tracks to really showcase how eclectic this album is, and I want to start off with Emptiness, one of my favorite, if not the favorite song on the entire record. And this might come as a surprise, because when you listen to the album, you're going to hear pretty much a jazz song. This is a very jazz driven track in the sound, but also even in the vocal performance, and you have that more jazz influence in the verses, super stripped down, with bass and guitars, very jazzy, with this great keyboard sound, this piano sound that also brings that jazz vibe into the forefront. And then you have a pre-chorus that kind of builds in with a little bit more heaviness, with some harsh vocals in the backdrop, and then it moves into a chorus that feels almost like a Faith No More song. It has that melody, it has that lightness, but that lightness that hides a little bit of darkness, and the way the song moves into that chorus, making that chorus super hooky, super catchy. The vocal performance in that chorus is Mike Patton stylish, and that's where that Faith No More vibe really comes through. So it's a song that has these 2 faces in one single coin. You have the more jazzy side of the track, and then you have this more alternative approach, if you will, in the chorus. But what a phenomenal song, what out of the box song. I love the jazziness of this track, and even if the chorus wasn't as impactful and as hooky, as memorable as it is, this would be a standout track just because of that jazz nature and the vocal dynamic that the song has, matching those different momentums and the moods that the sound puts forward. Next we have We Don't Care. Vocally, this song kicks ass. It has a little bit more of a rock and roll guitar sound to it, but a rock and roll guitar sound with some heaviness, with some intensity, with some aggression built into it. So it becomes almost a dirty rock and roll song, or a hard rock song that pushes almost into the metal. So it's a rock and roll riff, but the song itself and then the way the riff is transported through that sound makes it sound heavier, like a metal song with a rock riff. Great track from that standpoint, and that allows the sound to be powerful. But once again, another track that I feel like they really squeezed the most out of both vocals. The dynamic between the two is outstanding. It's a great mashup of styles, of approaches, one that matches the overall grooviness, heaviness of the song, but also simplicity of that rock that rock riff. So great track, very hooky, and a track that really showcases how much they can get out of these two vocalists in one single song. Last but not least, Torn Into Two. This is a more straightforward track. So this completely different from the other two, where I have different influences, different approaches, different nuances. This one, there's not a lot of nuances to it. It's heavy, it's intense, it has an industrial, aroma, but it's really a heavy metal song. It's really a heavy song with heavy riffs, heavy guitars, heavy drums, and really powerful, heavy vocal style approach. Not harsh vocals per se, but or in terms of what dominates the track, but the vocals definitely match the overall aggression and intensity that the song has. I love that because it makes this a prototypical banger style track. Pedal to the metal, beginning to end, very linear, very compact, very squeezed in, which allows it to be heavier because of the volume doesn't have room to move. It's just really compacted in, and the more you compact a song like this in, the heavier it's going to sound. That's exactly what Torn Into is all about. This is it, Mushroomhead with Call the Devil, out August 9th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.